Welcome to On the Porch, RVA, featuring observations on life here in the RVA, in Virginia, in America, and on this good green earth. Life is an adventure to be shared and celebrated. Now your host, Tracy Hundley.
Thank you for dropping by the porch. We've been away and we're shifting gears. Welcome to Season 2. I'm interested in covering issues that impact the quality of life in Virginia and more locally. I'm interviewing local Dr. Kenneth Qiu in this episode, and I urge you to consider how health care and insurance are not the same thing. I've had friends who have gotten insurance yet couldn't get a doctor. I will quote Dr. Qiu here. Frustrated by a healthcare system that was failing both patients and doctors, we decided to create something different. When we worked in the system, we witnessed rushed appointments that left patients feeling unheard, mandates by administration which burned out doctors while preventing any form of personalized care for patients, and constant games with insurance companies that put profits over people. We knew we had to create a better, truly patient-centered solution. End quote. Those of you who follow this podcast will notice I didn't ask Dr. Qiu my inevitable first question. I had already decided to save it for part 2. Send any questions that this episode provokes, and we will share them with the good doctor. Enjoy! Hello, we're back on the porch. I'm glad you found us on the porch, RVA, and as you can see, we are figuratively on the porch again, not literally this time. Sometimes we are literally on the porch. I wanted to introduce you to a new friend. Dr. Qiu came to my rescue. I want to tell you a quick story about how we met. Once upon a time, we were using a chainsaw in the backyard, and we went from cutting a softwood to cutting a hardwood, and there was a bounce, and it went bounce, 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 and I was like this while producer John was driving. Patients first is closest, and I was saying, Lord, I don't want to go to a hospital. Lord, I don't want to go to a hospital. You know what happens to people in hospitals. I don't want to go to a hospital. So got into the patients first, and I'm playing it cool. You know, John is John. And so I'm playing it cool, and I'm saying, yeah, I could use a couple of stitches. And so they bring Dr. Qiu in there, and he's looking at this wide open vista into my flesh. And he says, yeah, we can do that. This man gave me 3 hours. I was telling someone the other day, you worked on me for so long, we actually took an intermission.
Yeah, that's right.
That was amazing. That was amazing. And I'm going to insert pictures of, seriously, the initial stitches, and then the beautiful stitches that I have now. I never did get serious about getting a tattoo, but we spent 30 minutes just talking about tattoos on scar tissue. But I wanted you to get to know Dr. Qiu because of what he's gotten himself into that has nothing to do with these stitches. But I just wanted to tell you how pleased I am with Dr. Qiu's work, that this was kind of an open door then. And I've got just a few questions that I'll be asking just to keep things rolling, just to give us some structure. You are, let's see, what else do I know about you? I know that you've been in the Richmond area for some time, and I know that you have 2 offices in this, that you are very quick to explain that there's more options, more opportunities in how you take care of yourself, in how you see a doctor, and And I guess in a way it's not just how you go see a doctor, but how you see the role of doctor. Because we're kind of in a place where that's all up in the air too. So many people that they've lost faith. They've lost faith in every industry, and medicine too. And I got to tell you, I feel so comfortable when I came into this space. 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens and the Natural Remedies Guide. I have not been in a doctor's office that would have the Natural Remedies Guide since we were in Germany, because that's just not the mentality. That's not the mentality in a lot of doctors' offices.
Yeah.
So you guys must be open-minded people.
Yeah. So we're definitely trying some new stuff. So first, I'm glad the stitches turned out great. That was probably the most intense stitch job that I've done to date, just anywhere.
Hopefully you won't have to top it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And just to explain a little bit, so I do work at Patient First on the side. It's a fantastic company, great organization. They've been around since, I'm sure most people know, 1980 something. Yeah, it's really, really great urgent care, and I enjoy doing that on the side and helping people in the urgent situations. And then I have this, which is EuDoc. This is my main thing that I do. It's primary care. And so where should we start? I guess, first of all, shout out to my office manager, Ashley. She's new. We just started her, and she's been excellent. I think those books are her that she put out. There's a lot of places we can begin with the EuDoc. I think probably people's frustration with healthcare is a good place to start.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We have all been where we've had something done, and then we questioned it afterwards, or we chose not to have something done and then regretted it. And there's just so many different variables. And then you have being afraid of the technology. You have being afraid of not being able to trust. There's so much of it that just comes down to relationship. And I heard a statistic the other day that was saying that at one time, 85% of physicians were small business owners, and the difference, what worked for someone else, worked for a hospital. And then now that's flipped, where you've got 85% of the doctors work as employees of the hospital, which means they're basically the employees of the insurance company.
That's right. Yeah. I think you touched on a really important point right now with the working for the insurance company thing. This is some messaging that's just come out in the last 2 years in the mainstream, but I've been saying this for at least 5 years now, because if you think about it, a doctor who receives payments from the insurance companies, and in order to get those payments has to meet certain metrics and check certain boxes, works for the insurance company, right? They're not working for the patients. Even when they say, oh, I own my own practice, all the money is coming from the insurance companies. They're working for the insurance companies.
Yes, yeah.
And why that's important is I think people are frustrated with the American healthcare system. But what I think people don't really realize is that we don't have a healthcare system. We have a health insurance system. And it's not dysfunctional. It's actually been optimized over the last 100 years. So the health insurance system started in Dallas, Texas with the Baylor Plan in 1929, I believe. And since that time, it's just grown, and they figured out how to optimize denying care, squeezing as much premium dollars as they can. And I don't put 100% of the blame on the health insurance company. Some of the hospital systems, there's this ongoing arms race between the two. How high can we raise the prices? How much can we squeeze each other for money? And all that's caused is basically pain for the American people. Right? Warren Buffett's called our healthcare system a tapeworm on the American economy.
Ouch.
Yeah, because you have the health insurance companies trying to pull money from people, the hospitals trying to squeeze the health insurance companies, and who loses out? It's the patients, and now all the doctors getting employed, burning out, and leaving the system.
I have been surprised at how many doctors have left doctoring.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sad, really sad. But then it wasn't specialists, it was general practice.
Yep. Yep. That's right. Because so part of the insurance system that we've been doing for most of the history of insurance is called fee for service, where you get paid for doing things to people. The more things you do to people, the more money you make. And this
That sounds so unpleasant, but that's reality.
that's just how it is. And a lot of how they reimburse is decided by this committee called the RUC, the RVU Update Committee. It's a committee of the American Medical Association, and it's based there's no depends who you talk to, but my opinion is there's very little science to it. It's backroom deals where they say, oh, this procedure is worth this many RVUs, so relative value units, which is how much a certain code pays out. Mm-hmm. So it's a group of doctors who get together and they basically just trade RVU units. And it really, the group is weighted heavily towards specialists who do things. And so we have a system, a health insurance system and a payment mechanism that pays better for things being done rather than time being spent. And that's why primary care tends to lose out. Because a lot of what we do is we're reducing costs by catching things early, by focusing on preventative care,
right.
Maybe even some remedies that aren't just, prescribing pills all the time.
Right.
And a lot of it is based on time, because to develop trust and build relationships, it takes time to get to know people, to talk to people's fears, concerns, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's not reimbursed in the system.
Right.
And
right.
so
it's not measurable other
Correct.
than by the minutes. That reminds me.
That's right.
Dr. Gold, who he mentioned earlier, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Simone Gold, she mentioned them and talked about how the billing structure was like at the core of everything. People think that the drugs are at the middle of everything. And she said there's the alternate view that the billing and who establishes the billing is at the core of everything, because it's all one great big glom of a industry. Mm-hmm. It's not, going back to it not being small business people, but yeah, I have a feeling you could talk about all of that for quite some time, because it seems as if you're just pulling back a corner of it to peek, and then following all of the different threads that you could pull.
Yeah,
that it's quite a structure, self-perpetuating structure, where the person is not the consumer, the person is the product.
That's right. That's right. And so there's a movement right now in healthcare to make people more the consumer, to where they actually understand prices and see that a lot of what's going on is smoke and mirrors. Right? There's the price transparency movement. There's the direct primary care movement, which is now slowly starting to make its way into specialties, so direct specialty care, so what we call collectively the direct care movement. And the idea is, how do we show people that you don't have to rely on insurance for everything? And that's going to be a big cultural mind shift for a lot of Americans, right? Because one of the kind of truisms in healthcare is that people will not pay for something that can be covered by insurance. And that's going to be a really hard cultural shift to get over. But some of the things like health savings accounts, HSAs, right, where you actually contribute your own money that you can then spend, and that makes the patient a bit of a consumer as well, where they can shop around and look for the best MRIs, X-rays, or anything like that.
Right.
That helps. It's one step towards that. And I think a little bit of the role, this depends who you ask, because originally insurance companies were supposed to help you find the cheapest price and navigate, but that's clearly not happening
the navigators
anymore. Yeah, the navigator.
They got very specific waters they'll navigate through.
That's right. And they're not ones that'll save you money. But that's one of the key things that we do, one of the roles that we help people with, because our model, direct primary care, we take care of everybody, right? Regardless if they have insurance or no insurance. And so we do get a good number of people who don't have insurance or have alternate things like crowd health or a health share. And for those people, it's really important that when we order labs, when we order imaging, when we refer to a specialist, they're like, okay, well, how much does this cost?
Right.
In the fee-for-service world, the traditional system, the insurance-based system, the doctor goes, I don't know, I don't have time to know, next, right? They just
Yes.
order the thing and then best of luck to you.
Mm-hmm.
But here we're very passionate and we care a lot about how much things cost. And so part of the membership and what we do actively on the back end is we help people navigate. We have contracts with LabCorp, with imaging centers. We talk to the specialists to see what we can do for our patients who don't have insurance. And a lot of times, even the ones that do have insurance end up using our prices because it's so much lower than what the insurance has figured out for them.
Yeah, you're describing a lot of moving parts, and that's intimidating to a lot of people. When um, when people of a certain age, we get in with the employer, we were working towards the full-time that's got the benefits, and, we're not going to budge out of, into a new job because we don't want to lose those benefits, and we've got that insurance, and that's a big part of the mentality.
That's right.
And I'm a state worker, so part of what I say is, well, the job may suck and the pay may suck, but I've got my insurance.
That's right.
And so to think that there is another way, something that would provide more value coming alongside. I mean, I probably have insurance coverage for a lot of stuff that I will never, the idea of there being a navigator that's looking out for all of us, that is aware of everything that you offer, that gets right to one of the things that was on my list of unofficial questions.
Okay.
Is there like a website or a phone number that I'll be able to put in the show notes where someone would be able to reach out and say, this is what I've got, this is what I need, can you advise me as to how I can get from here to there? Because it sounds like education is such a huge part of what you've got going.
Yeah, that's right. So our website, www.eudoc, spelled EUDOC, .me, so EuDoc and me, right?
Cool.
.me. That's where I've written a lot of stuff, and we put a lot of the information there. I think you hit on two important parts. One is that it's complicated, right? And a lot of what goes on in the background, I don't think patients should have to know all of this, right? And that's what we try to take care of for our patients. Is like you join our practice, and once you're in our practice, like all this stuff is kind of figured out for you. When we make the referrals, when we do the labs, it's just like, hey, when we do our annual visit, our initial visit, which are 90 minutes, by the way, so that we get to know everybody.
90 minutes?
90 minutes.
That's as long as a movie.
Yeah. I tend to run over, but
movies, way too many movies are way too long now.
Yes.
So 90 minutes is a good movie.
Yeah. So you don't have to use the whole time, but we allow for that because the things, in addition to like the regular visit, which is like, oh, what meds are you on, what chronic conditions, we dive into a lot of lifestyle stuff as well. I ask people about sleep. I ask them about their diet, their exercise, and we look at these things in the context of, I guess, the complaints or their medical issues. Because even if you're young, healthy, and your lifestyle section is just red flag after red flag, there's time for you to work on this stuff. So 10, 15, 20 years down the line, you're not developing things. And so we're in the business of kind of preventative medicine and keeping things from happening. And if we do our jobs right, the more you use us, the less you'll need us. And so, so the first point is we try to take all this complex healthcare stuff and make it simple, help you navigate. The second one is, you mentioned you have insurance and you're not even sure what you're using it for. So one of the key talking points that we have that we like to repeat over and over and over in the direct primary care space is, well, you're not using your car insurance for oil changes and filling up gas.
Yeah.
If you did, your oil change would be $3,000 and out of network.
Yes.
Right? You don't use your house insurance to change a light bulb. And the fact that we still pay for blood pressure management, the common cold, the same way we pay for an ICU stay, doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. That has bothered me for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know I'm not the only person feels that way.
That's right. And part of the dysfunction why primary care leaves is they have to file a claim for every patient. So in a traditional primary care office, the doctors are seeing 25 to 30 people a day and filing 25 to 30 claims, half to a quarter of which automatically get denied. And then they have to hire this whole back office to kind of fight it, educate the doctors how to file a claim better. And this whole process is called revenue cycle management. And it's roughly 10% overhead extra for those practices. Yeah.
I was just wondering how that compares to the overhead. Well, I know every business is going to have a different kind of overhead. The overhead of a restaurant is going to be different from the overhead of someone who runs a craft store and inventory and stuff like that. So every business has got a different kind of profile, but that's got to be bigger than most.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Well, I don't know if this study is still valid, but there was one that said there's roughly like 10 administrators per doc for any like major health system practice. And in that case, you're basically like a revenue cycle management company that happens to do some medicine, right? Rather than a truly medical care practice.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think, just as a quick intro, I don't think we talked about like what direct primary care is or how we work.
No, we didn't do the overview thing.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. And I haven't asked any of my official
Sorry,
questions.
you want to do that
either.
instead?
Let's do a little of both.
Okay.
Okay. So, my first official question.
Sure.
Okay. Is when did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
It's a perfectly acceptable answer.
Yeah. You know, when I started college, I was in between doing law and medicine. And so I took a bunch of econ classes as well as science classes. Turns out I liked the sciences better. It was more fun and I was a lot better at it. So then I went down the pre-med course. I still have some interest in law and policy, and so I am involved on that side.
Well, it ties in with...
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. There, you can't really think about healthcare reform without touching government because there's so many regulations and because Medicare, Medicaid plays such a huge role in the healthcare system. So there's that. And then once I learned about direct primary care and knew I wanted to open a business, I very quickly had to become a businessman as well. And over the last 3.5 years, have been working on my street MBA. TBD on when or if I'll ever fully get it, because I'm just learning every day constantly.
Yeah.
And
as long as you're learning along the way, the goal is still out there, and the time in between is productive.
Yeah, that's right. And so I don't know. That question of what do you want to be when you grow up just assumes that you're always going to be one thing. And for me, I think if I had to be one thing, it's just someone who's curious, right? That can continually learn new things and new skills and explore the world. And so when did I learn that I wanted to be that? Probably within the last year or two, where I was just like, oh man, there's so many things to do and so many things to learn. And I think I'm just going to always be this way, because I think when you give up learning and you say, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to be this person, that's kind of it, right? You just get stuck in this lane. And I think there's just so many things in the world to explore that I can't stay in one lane. I think there are people who do stay in one lane and enjoy that lane a lot, but I'm a wanderer.
Well, let's take that, where you started out with law, and there's some very definite flaws and virtues, but in taking away from that, there's that methodical analysis in looking at things. Then you apply that to the medicine, and then you come up with, what did you plug into a network where somebody else was already looking at, we could do this framework, and then it resonated with you? Or did you have it formed in your mind that there had to be another way to operate in this new passion for medicine that you said, okay, I've got it. This is what I'm going to do. So did you create it or did you plug into it?
I wish I was smart enough to have created this, but the direct primary care has been a model. It was started by a doctor named Garrison Bliss out in Seattle back in '97. It's really only started taking off in a big way since about 2013. But for me, again, I'm kind of a wanderer, and I like to just learn as much as I can. And when I meet interesting people, I like to double click on those ideas or those communities. So all throughout medical school, I was really interested in learning how the healthcare system worked. I was the co-president of one organization, and I founded another organization. And then I was recruited to be state-level student leadership at the Medical Society of Virginia. And so through all those organizations, I was just talking to people about different parts of the healthcare system. And this was when I knew nothing, right? I was like, okay, how do hospitals get paid? What is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? How does this work? I learned about the RUC, that kind of billing coding committee at the time. And everything was just like dysfunction, broken. And I was like, what do we do? And they're like, I don't know, it's terrible. And then somebody told me about the direct primary care community. And so there was one year that the conference was in DC, and I happened to have some free time. So I went up there, and they're like, oh, this is how this works. This is how we're making healthcare better. And instead of being like, I don't know, everything's broken, they're like, this is how we're fixing this. This is how we're fixing this.
This is
I was
the
like,
way.
yeah, this is the way. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's great.
Good.
And I think a little bit of that, in hindsight, I learned is really like a business mindset, right? Where business is really just solving problems, right? And all these people
if it works, you can continue.
That's right. That's right. And all these people were just solving problems that everybody else had like given up on. And so because of the excitement and because of what I saw they were doing, I was like, all right, I got to do this thing. This is awesome.
Well, that takes care of my second question, because my second question was, what propels you to do what you do? And I can see it. I can see it. So I'm going to go with my third question. Okay. This is a little bit deeper. Okay. Everybody goes through a hard season, a hard day, a devastating day. Okay. And so I want you to share with us that devastating day or season, and not because we want the nitty-gritty details, but because I would love for you to share how you came out of it.
Yeah, I probably, that's an interesting question. I think for me, I don't know if it's like stoicism or just hard-headed determination, where the hard season is hard and you kind of acknowledge it. And for me right now, and this just may be a guy thing that I do, where I'm like, okay, it's terrible now. It's probably not going to be like this forever. Like, just go to the next thing. And sometimes if I'm having a really bad day, I'm like, this day is done. I'm going to bed. Like, tomorrow has to be better.
Sometimes rest is good medicine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there definitely harder times when I'm not sleeping enough. But yeah, sometimes things pile on. Like the summer, there was just a lot going on with starting new practice, moving our other office across the street, some family stuff going on, and it was just a lot. And part of me was like, all right, just keep trucking on. This will only last a season. But I think it's important to have friends, like in-person friends, and peers who are in the same place that you are. So I think it's always nice. What I've learned in the last couple of years is like, you want mentors who have been there before, right? Who you can talk to and say like, hey, all this stuff is happening. They're like, yes, this is terrible. I've been through this. It'll be okay.
Yes.
And then you want friends who are in a similar place as you, whether it's like they're also like an early business startup or they're in healthcare, and you can kind of like talk about the niche complaints that you have to these people. But I think it's equally as important to have friends who are not where you are.
Yeah.
So I have friends who are not in healthcare and who aren't business owners and have no interest in that at all, who I just do hobbies with. And it's nice because then you kind of get out of your head a little. You're like, okay, the world's a little bit bigger than all the work that I do.
Yes.
So I think it's important to have both because
Oh.
you need the niche people and then you need the people to take you out of your
Focus is
niche.
everything.
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So I think those all helped a lot. And, you know, my like non-business friends were the ones like when I was really deep into all that stuff, they're like, hey, like even for you, you look kind of rough. Like you should probably back off a little bit. I was like, I know, I'm working on it.
Yeah. And then you got your office open that you had poured everything into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was going to happen eventually. It was just a lot concentrated in a very short amount of time. And again, the family stuff could not have happened at a worse time as well either. But, you know, you don't control those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family's always the wild card.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, even within the business, it's nice to have people who are helpful. So Dr. Mariana Keener is the partner who started the Midlothian office with me. And she's, you know, helping out with all the stuff with this office as well. And so and she's a friend from residency, so we've known each other a while back, and that's why it was nice to start a business. You know, when you start a business with someone, you got to really know them.
Yeah.
Because I think, at least in our space, there have been more people who have gone through what I call business divorce than who have made it work. And so, because I knew Dr. Keener from residency, and we kind of jived well, and incidentally learned that, you know, she's very good at like internal operations. I'm good at kind of the external marketing stuff, and neither of us care to do each other's role.
But you have the same goal.
Exactly.
And that's where you're pulling in tandem.
That's right. Yeah. So having her for the since starting the practice has been incredible as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Producer John, was there anything I forgot? We good? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 after you've had an afternoon of tinkering around in your shop and you go, darn, I meant to talk about this and that and the other.
Yeah. Well, we haven't talked about how direct primary care works.
That is true. That is true. And I know that there are some friends that I told I was going to be talking with you, and they are interested in the how-to. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to be putting links in the show notes. And I have to admit, I was curious when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid and dealing with the government programs, and I'm really appreciative of you telling us that you want it to be just as much behind the scenes as it is in the doctor's offices that we're used to dealing with. We have a higher expectation of things coming together and not hearing no as often, and there just being a different mentality. Mm-hmm. But he's telling me we have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do a quick kind of overview. So direct primary care is a monthly membership model.
Excellent.
The reason we do a membership, and it's not concierge. So concierge practices, which a lot of people are familiar with, will have an annual membership, which is usually very high, and then they bill your insurance every time you see them. So I call that double dipping.
Right.
We just do a flat monthly fee. Our monthly membership, there's no commitment. It's just month to month, and it's half of the cheapest concierge in the area. And part of it is because we don't have the insurance to deal with.
So it's like a subscription.
It is. Yeah. It is. And the reason why we do it, I know there's some subscription fatigue in the world, but the reason we do it is, one, we believe the relationship is continuous, right? The options are you either do a subscription or you do fee for service. In fee for service, it's very transactional. You come in, you come out, you do the thing. So a subscription allows for that kind of longitudinal relationship. And then number two, it gives people a proactive mindset. Instead of every time something happens, they're like, how much do I have to pay? You know, what does this look like? Yeah, they're like, I'm already paying. I should just text my doctor.
Yeah.
Right? I should just go in.
Like, I had this thing happen earlier today, and it hurt a lot, and it looked a little, you see I got a dark spot there. Y'all go mind your business. I had a little dark spot there, and it's like a sudden bruise out of nowhere, and it was like, ow! Yeah. Well, I'm going to see a doctor today.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
But somebody could just call.
Yeah. Yeah. So because we do this and it doesn't rely on insurance billing or fee for service, we can communicate with people like it's 2025 now, right?
Right.
So if they need to, we have same next day appointments. Our appointment times are 30 to 60 minutes. But for convenience sake, we do text, phone calls, video calls, and really,
Like real people.
yeah, like real people. That's how you talk to people now. And one slogan that's been thrown out there, it's like having a doctor in the family, right? Because if you had a doctor, cousin, brother, or whatever, you just text them like, hey, I have this issue. What do I do? And they're either like, hey, FaceTime me, let me see it, or can you come over, let me take a look at it, or do something to it. And that's exactly what we do. So
or they don't answer the phone.
Right,
you
sure,
guys
yeah.
not going to do that.
That's right. So our patients message us first, and depending on what's happening, they can just take care of it at home. We can send a script in, and everything's resolved there. It's a huge convenience thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, oh, I gotta look at this, I gotta push on your belly or something like that, then we ask them to come in, and they can always come in when they need it. And so that's why we do the flat subscription. So it's a little bit like Netflix there, where there's no extra charge, there's nothing else, and then we're a little bit like Costco, where all the labs, all the imaging, it's really at kind of the best price that we can find it. Just to give you an idea, like a vitamin D level, a lot of people are interested in vitamin D. Most people are low because we don't go outside enough.
Yeah.
The cheapest I've seen is somewhere between $150 and $280-ish. We do it for $15. And so that's kind of the same everywhere. So blood count that can run you $38 to $80, we do it for $5.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of blowing open the pricing of everything and showing people that, like, yeah, you can do it for cheaper.
Okay. Because I know we were talking the other day about how, I wish I could just go in and get a lab test on just this one thing that I'm curious about. Because you just, insurance isn't going to let you do that.
Yeah. Well, another, and for people who just want a single thing, LabCorp and Quest, they actually have direct-to-consumer labs now. You don't get any interpretation, right? You just get the thing, and it's like, here's a number. And so part of the reason why we don't like to do a la carte or just like order things and then let you go is that, again, a lot of the relationship and trust building is that the doctor will order the appropriate labs. Because some people, they have like a symptom and they're just like, I think this is it, but it's not it.
Yeah.
And then two, just, okay, the aftermath. You get the results. If it's normal and you're still feeling bad, what next, right? If you're feeling good and it's abnormal, what next?
Yeah.
And so having somebody that who's followed you over time, who knows your history and everything is very important.
Yeah. So I think that this satisfies an itch I've had in the back of my mind for years, thinking that doctors should still be in their carriages going from house to house, seeing people when the people are not sick enough to be going into the hospital. Because, y'all know hospitals were invented by the churches just to put people while they were waiting to die. Sorry, that's what it was. And so this feels very proactive.
Yeah.
This feels very organic in that you've got the skills, you've got the place, and you're just helping people figure out how to connect with you and how to stay connected with them. And I think that's awesome. I'm not really glad that I had the chainsaw incident, but I am glad that we met.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you took the time
to
sit and do some explaining, because that's an industry that needs some explaining.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. If you start thinking about where you want to dig in a little bit deeper and you want to do a part 2, we will do a part 2. We will do a part 2.
Yeah, if that's what the people want, happy to do so.
We will just kind of put that on the shelf, and when the idea strikes, the timing comes together, we'll let you know.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sitting with us. And get out there, have a wonderful day. Get on your porch, talk to people, get on other people's porches. And remember, any place can be a porch in the metaphysical, figurative sense. If you pause at the grocery store in the doorway, and when you see a neighbor and you're blocking the doorway because of your shopping carts, then just tell them, this is a porch. pause. Take a moment. Maybe they won't call the police on you. Have a good day. Mwah!
On the Porch is produced and directed by John Hundley IV. Your executive producer is Tracy Hundley, and your host is Tracy Hundley. Video of these episodes is on YouTube and Rumble. Email us at tomatlh@outlook.com. On the Porch is a 2025 T.O.M.A Studios production.